And when did you get interested in the sustainability?
It's a great question. I've always been interested in the natural environment. In my early university studies, I studied environmental sciences in the 1970s when it was a very, very new subject. The driver for getting involved in that was to look at the crises even back then that were happening with regional starvation, the Biafran conflict, a lot of the clarity around resource inequality and scarcity. And so it became my mission to play my part to do something about it. So I spent the next 25 years in global industry, helping organisations, governments, institutions look at their own footprint and see how they could reduce the amount of resources they consume, the waste they create, and look at a better way of spending the money vis-a-vis what that means to society, the planet and the economy.
And how did you prepare for the GA summit?
Well, very quickly. This goes back actually, in truth, a couple of years. The GA summit in a couple of years before raised the issue of how do we help the world become more sustainable on an individual, a nation and individual level. And that question came to our company, and for the last couple of years we've been actually building on an evolution model we've been working on anyway, using with our customers and in our own organisation, and we built upon that to make it much more user-friendly for the global society. So the last couple of weeks have been very busy getting everything ready, but the model itself has been a couple of years in its establishment, and it's been validated with the help of the Worldwide Fund for Nature, with Greenpeace, organisations such as that, the G8, United Nations World Environment Programme itself, and the World Forum. So we're pretty confident it will hit the mark and respond to the question that G8 asked a couple of years ago.
And are you looking forward to hearing any specific speakers?
Not really. In terms of how the conference works, it's actually on two levels. The first is there's about 10,000 movers and shakers from all over the world there. These are government leaders, industry leaders, really those people who own, control, use and utilise the world's precious resources. So everybody has a vested interest in being there and focusing on the common future. That's the future survival of all of us on this great planet. The G8 leaders themselves don't engage with that greater body. What they do is they come to hear answers to the specific questions they posed. They'll come in for a very short period. Speakers will be invited in for a very short period and then asked to leave. There won't be any questions and answers generally. It'll just be respond to the question we asked you and then please leave, and the United Nations Environment Programme will put a communique together later which will give the details of what was agreed and what will now happen.
What are the main points you want to discuss during the conference?
No discussion as such. Really, the way we felt this was best to put forward was to say, look, the first thing that any organisation or individual has to do if they really want to contribute to changing the world, ensuring its survival and its people, is to understand where are they now, and to step back and say, what resources do I consume, what waste do I create, what money do I spend, how do I interface with my community, and if that's an institution, how many employees do I have, how do I educate them in sustainable practices and this sort of thing. So it's very much a model which is a roadmap, and what we're putting forward is a roadmap that every individual nation or institution could take, and we hope that the G8 will endorse what they hear. If they don't, it's not a huge setback. The UNEP, the United Nations Environment Programme, will still take this forward. It will still go to 50,000 world leaders, industry leaders throughout, with a commitment to enable and actually put this into practice. It'll be launched again at the World Forum 4 weeks later, so it will be nice to have the faces and the signatures on the paper, but if it doesn't happen, it won't be the end of the world.
And what or why did you make this model? What made you to do this model?
I think it were two things. First is it was a direct question from the G8, and we were honoured that our company was asked to put something together to respond to that. But more realistically, this is something that, you know, when I go around the world and I hold public meetings and industry meetings, I hear the same thing. I was in Sydney, Australia 4 weeks ago, and I was meeting with 40 key industrial leaders from all over Australia, and I said to them, look, I've got two questions for you. Firstly, why do you want to become more sustainable? And secondly, what's stopping you? And the first one is very easy to answer, well, it's because it's the right thing to do, our investors, our other stakeholders expect it, resources are finite, there's a cost efficiency model that goes with it. So all sorts of reasons why you would certainly do this, and the biggest one being we're all in this together, it's for the future of our children and grandchildren. So that bit is relatively easy. But when you've decided why you want to do something, you've then got to do it. And the big roadblock is actually having little baby steps, because that's the way sustainability works. Baby steps that each individual organisation, government, nation, region, indeed the world can take, that together can make a very large difference. And that tends to be the challenge. There are many things individuals and organisations can do. It's just who do you talk to, where do you get the information, and the roadmap allows that to take place and allows people to start their own journey.
Okay, and what do you hope to achieve with your presentation? Like, what do you hope people will take from your speech?
The first thing is we hope the G8 will say, yes, this responds to what we feel is doable on a global scale, and they will then welcome that and endorse it, and nothing could be better than that. As I've said before, if it doesn't go that way, I don't know why it shouldn't, it will still proceed and this will still go to the world. So we haven't lost much. What it does mean, though, is the G8 will not be taking it back to their own nations. It will rely on businesses within that nation to grow from the ground up and do it in their own way. So we're hoping certainly for the support, which will be very powerful. But moreover, more importantly, what we're hoping is, on a 5-year time frame, this roadmap is something that everyone will embrace at various levels. It's not something that is prescriptive. It's not do this and everything will be fine. It's here is a pathway you can follow, but you're going to have to use your own creativity in your own situation to make that difference and make it in a maximal way with long-term impact. So we're asking the world to yoke its creative strength, think about things, why things should change, how things could change, and then actually do it.
And who is invited to the conference?
Two levels, as I mentioned before. One is the G8 world leaders themselves, the household names that you know. They control most of the larger part of the GDP globally. And again, the other people that are attending in their thousands are those who make the economy work and impact and deal and prescribe and safeguard the environment. But moreover, many non-governmental organisations who are the conscious of humanity, such as Greenpeace, the former Friends of the Earth, World Wide Fund for Nature. They're there to make sure that people keep their eye on the ball and they focus on what is important, which is ensuring the survival and the long-term stability of population, economy and environment in this amazing planet that we all inhabit.
What will be your next steps after the conference?
Well, to be frank, I'll probably go home and have a little bit of a rest, but when I get back to work, it's business as usual. I'll continue doing what I've always done, which is helping our company innovate and derive even more novel solutions to help organisations use less of the world's precious resources, handle waste and packaging in a different way, look at reducing emissions, in particular greenhouse gases, but also help with economic prosperity and how organisations interface with their communities. The environment and economic part is relatively easy and known. The social part is the tough one. Everyone's involved with this, everyone has a role to play, but what do they do? So I'm hoping that we can enthuse and inspire organisations to get out there with their communities and indeed their employees and start community programs, getting people involved at the grassroots level in conserving resources, looking for renewable alternatives, community programs, this sort of thing.